Hi guys, it's Debbie and I am finally back. Where have I been all summer? Well, long story short, I was working. But what a great way to come back with a film we're all so curious about, The Matrix 4, also known as The Matrix Resurrections. If I think of all the movies that are releasing soon, or at least the ones we know that are being released, so end of 2021, 2022, there are quite a few I'm interested in. House of Gucci, Lamb, Nightmare Alley, Licorice Pizza, Ghostbusters Afterlife. But the two I am beyond excited about are The Batman with Robert Pattinson and The Matrix 4. The original Matrix saga was a sci-fi trilogy that was released at the turn of the millennium. The first one was released in 1999 and the last one, I believe, was released in 2003. And that was an era in which technology was taking huge steps. The internet was starting to be rolled out to a more commercial use. Cell phones were starting to become the new thing. The internet was becoming more common in households. And people were also terrified that this millennium bug would basically wipe out all of their systems. And this paranoid influence of technology, combined with the awe it confronts, was reflected in movies. For example, in the Matrix saga, it is shown that the world that we know, the world we're familiar with, is just a simulation created by robots which have taken control over humans who instead are subdued. And a few select people, Keanu Reeves' Neo, for example, have to save the world. And it is very exciting to see that concept 20 years later during what is now being described as the fourth industrial revolution, with the internet and technology being a fundamental part of our lives, if not basically taking over our lives. If years ago we were mind blown by the concept of sending an email, now we have created this completely alternative double life online. Our currencies are becoming cryptocurrencies. Shopping is done online. Schools are done online. Our jobs are being replaced by automated systems. Gaming, if before you could drive down the street, now you can actually own NFT shops along that street. So I'm very curious to see how The Matrix will play out within this environment. Now, taking a step back, when the directors of the original trilogy released the first movies, regardless of the success they achieved, they basically categorically stated that they would never make a sequel. So when the first rumors came out of a new sequel in the works, people were excited, but of course also a little wary, because usually such a big change of mind, it's usually dictated by a large cash offer. So not something made for passion, but because of the idea of a big paycheck. I'm not saying that this is necessarily the case, but you can see why people were a bit skeptical. It's a little like when Todd Phillips said there would never be a Joker sequel. Then the Joker was reached this huge success and suddenly a sequel is in the works, if you see what I mean. Anyway, all of this was up in the air until just a few weeks ago when the trailer for The Matrix 4 released, and I've been wanting to talk about it ever since. So first of all, this trailer leaves a lot of mystery. It doesn't exactly explain what's going on, but from what we can tell from the trailer and from the creator's statements, this movie is set 20 years after the events of the original trilogy. Neo is living a regular, basic life with his normal name as Thomas Anderson, and he doesn't seem to remember anything of what happened. For example, in one scene he meets Trinity, his partner from the original trilogy, and they don't seem to recognize each other. But he does seem to feel a bit out of place in this world. He goes to a therapist, he says he feels crazy, that he's having dreams that feel too real, and he does he looks a bit upset with what's going on around him. For example, there's one shot in an elevator in which everybody around him is with their noses stuck into their phones, and apparently he is taking a lot of blue pills. Now, in the Matrix universe, the blue pills are the ones that keep you within the Matrix. They stop you from seeing the reality, while the red ones, the one that Neo takes in the first movie, are the ones that allow you to see beyond just the Matrix. Now, this red pill, blue pill situation is basically just a metaphor of choosing whether you want to live your life without questioning anything about your existence, or whether you actually want to see a little more to it. And side note, to be honest, I hadn't even noticed a few details that other people pointed out in the trailer. For example, the fact that his therapist wears blue glasses and there are a lot of blue objects in his office, whereas Sati, or at least the woman who we presume is Sati, the little girl with the oracle in the first movies, has red glasses. Anyway, the first movies went very hardcore on all the philosophical, metaphoric analysis of this situation, of the situation of the Matrix. It wasn't just you dumb sheep open up your eyes. It was all about historical myths, allegories, previous literature, many hints to various religions, heaps of information and references were poured into the project. Now, my main fear with this new film, and which was kind of enhanced with this trailer, is that all this interesting, intriguing metaphoric lining would just be scrapped with the new film. I really don't want to put it down to the new generations just won't get it, because it isn't true. But the market and conditions are different. A lot of the themes that were covered in the original Matrix films, as well as other films back at the time, even The Truman Show had its thing going on, even if it was completely different. But anyway, a lot of these themes are still carried out in other films today. If we even just take the sci-fi world, you know, Inception has all its mind-blowing, soul-questioning themes. Ex Machina has its beautifully warped concepts. Just think of films like Arrival. But if we take a look at the highest-grossing sci-fi films of all time, we're talking Transformers, Independence Day, Hunger Games, the new Star Wars movies, The Day After Tomorrow, Armageddon. I love many of these titles I've mentioned, but you can definitely see how the films with the biggest budgets, the ones that have been advertised the most, and the ones that eventually reach more people, don't exactly require you to scratch your brain with, you know, Buddhist philosophy. This doesn't mean we all understood The Matrix. I've seen it countless times and there's still so much stuff I haven't understood. But the original trilogy came out at a time in which studios could afford that risk, at a time in which people were in that condition of being all paranoid about technology, and cyberpunk was the big thing. Nowadays, with the internet being so saturated with content, including the advertisement of movies, what appeals to most people is what eventually makes it to the podium. If we look back at 2019, which in my opinion is the most useful recent year to check movie-wise, because 2020 and 2021 are all over the place in regards to cinema. But if we look at the highest grossing movies, they were all big budget stories appealing to the widest audience possible, with well-known themes, and nearly none of them correspond to the titles that actually won most of the awards that year. I think only Joker overlapped. All of this is not to be a boring nostalgic person, but it is to say that the companies that put money into the movies will want something that will appeal to the widest audience possible. No spoon-bending metaphors and cryptic lines. In addition to that, this film also has to appeal to a whole new audience of people who never watched the first films, so a lot of concepts will have to be simplified. For example, the Matrix films love to reference Alice in Wonderland, but in the original trilogy, it is more of hints. You either catch it or you don't. But in this new trailer, you literally have the music being White Rabbit by Jefferson Airplane, and in the moment in which the lyrics say White Rabbit, there is a shot of a tattooed rabbit. When the lyrics say "Ask Alice," there's a character who is reading Alice in Wonderland, and she literally shuts the book, and there's a shot on the name Alice in Wonderland. You see what I mean? Even that shot of the people in the elevator, it's more of a look at all these people stuck in their own world. We're just living in the Matrix, aren't we? That's what I'm most afraid about. Now, I know this is just a first trailer, but I'm a bit wary. Think about how many people, myself partially included, complained about Tenet being so complicated. Think of how much money they lost out because people just read reviews of it being just too complicated. They can't sit back and just enjoy a film. And it's fantastic. All of that being said, I can't wait for this new Matrix film. I agree that the saga technically could have even ended with the first film back in 1999, and it might have even made all the concepts more intriguing and interesting. But the following films also introduced so many interesting concepts, and it created one of my favourite trilogies of all time. This trailer has a lot of things that don't make sense, but I'm loving that. I need to find out more. For example, why in The Matrix are they watching The Matrix? You can see the Matrix film. Who is that guy that Neo sees in the mirror? Why can't Trinity remember anything either? Is his therapist a sort of evil Agent Smith? Is Agent Smith the guy that's pointing the gun at him? And I also don't agree with people who are saying that this film is basically a new John Wick film. For reference, in the last years, Keanu Reeves has been portraying the main character in an action saga called John Wick, in which he sports a very distinctive long haircut, which he also has in the Matrix film, in the contrary to the older films when he had a very short haircut. But I personally think that analysing a film of this size based on a haircut doesn't exactly make it justice, is that the term? I think this casual look of his with the beanie is to underline how he's just the regular Thomas Anderson. He's not a godly Neo anymore. And of course the movie plays on the popularity that Keanu Reeves gained in all these years. It's marketing. If you're a teenager who loves John Wick, which film are you going to pick? The one that looks basically like a new John Wick, or one marketed as the sequel to the sci-punk success you never watched 20 years ago when maybe you weren't even born? I am personally so excited about this film. Another positive thing about the trailers is that sometimes trailers only show like, I don't know, 4 or 5 good moments from a film, whereas this trailer is showing like 20 plus different settings, and each setting looks so cool, like each setting looks good, if you see what I mean. So I'm expecting good stuff from different settings. Even the effects don't look too bad, even if trailers are sometimes made during production. For example, the first Batman, the first trailer for the Batman for 2022 came out like what, a year and a half or 2 before the film is actually going to be released, when they still had they probably didn't even finish filming it. And another thing that makes me hope that this film won't be too bad is that Keanu Reeves has been in many different projects over the years since The Matrix, and with his ups and downs, he's never really accepted absolutely terrible projects. He doesn't come off as the guy that will accept something just for money. That being said, I don't know if he has a contract that for 50 years, any Warner Bros. Matrix he has to be in it, I don't know. But he doesn't come off as the guy that would just take on any project randomly. But anyway, we'll have to see what will come up with all the new material they're going to be releasing over the next months leading up to the actual Matrix film. It's going to be a great Christmas present. Let me know what you think about this new Matrix film, what you think about the Matrix films in general, with a comment down below. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.